Oh, hello, this is Chandra Easton here from StarAstrologyHealing.com, speaking to you today about the time I've spent at Broome in the West Kimberleys around the Dampier Peninsula. This is part of my series of talks on this ancient land. You'll find them under my website. Just type in Kimberleys and you'll find this and lots of others. So I've been at Broome, and I discovered that Broome in the traditional language is known as Ubibi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and the traditional custodians are the Yawara people, the Yawara nation. One of the first things that I felt compelled to do when I got to Broome was to go to the coast, and I made my way up to Point Ganthium. Ganthium Point, just intuitively felt that was the place to go, and of course this is a headland that is, it's probably about, I don't know, maybe it's 5 kilometres, a little bit more south of the town centre of Broome, and it's one arc, the beginning of the long sweeping bay that extends up the coast. Yeah, so this is the home of the Yawara Nation, one of the Kimberley Nation people, and it's the, you can see it here on this map. Lots of different nations all around, but there it is in yellow in the middle of the map. It's beautiful to see the vibrant, I can't tell you how vibrantly blue the Indian Ocean is, and how the contrast of that with this orange and ochre and red earth is very contrasting. I'd heard that there were dinosaur footprints around Ganthium Point. I didn't notice them, but it's possible that they're further up higher on the headland where I didn't walk, but they're certainly there, and I don't know if that's 65 million years ago. Is that when the dinosaurs were about? So ancient land, ancient country. Of course, here in the 21st century it's a mecca for holidays, and it's the holiday season, and the places are filled with tourists, travellers like myself and families on holiday, and they come and they're drawn to this amazing cable beach, which sweeps and sweeps and sweeps its way north. You can see in this image here the tiny, tiny little thread which is a camel train. And as I said, this is the custodians of the Yawara nation, and this the people in this region are very close to Asia, very close to China, Japan, Indonesia, and you can see that in the cultural connections through the intermingling of the Aboriginal people and the Asian people who are all part of this nation. Yes, and very strong, proud traditions of protecting country in this region. In more recent times, I don't know, was it the 17th century, long before Cook, we had the Dutch and I think also the Chinese coming to this coast in boats, and we still have people passing the coast in boats. There's a photo I took the other day. Of course the region was known, probably still is, but very strongly maybe 50 years ago for pearls, which is part of the wealth of the region. And also let's not forget the Afghan cameleers. This is an image of a cameleer from Fremantle, but because Western Australia is so much desert, then of course the camels and the cameleers were very pivotal in the early white settlement. I say white, but of course the cameleers from Afghanistan are no more white than the Aboriginal people. Now, one of the other things I've always loved, film and media, and the Sun Pictures here in Broome. So this is the oldest picture house, well they say the world, I'm not sure if that's true, but certainly in Australia, more than 100 years. I think it was 1912. Yes, I found myself wandering around the old town, part of Chinatown, which I have to say doesn't seem very Chinese anymore, apart from the Sun Pictures, which I think had a bit of an appearance in the film New Day Dawning. No, Brand New Day. Brand New Day, yes. And so I wandered around Chinatown and found myself at the beach around sunset one evening, and that's just a wonderful spectacle to see the ships of the desert, the camels, and happy families and tourists astride them. And of course, it's if you're a bit of an amateur photographer like myself, then it's a wonderful place to be with a camera because of the light and the beauty. Everywhere I looked, I saw beauty around Broome. You can see I've taken lots of images of the camels and of this it's the sunset. I should say that people gather here from the late afternoon on. Everybody seems to be drawn down to Cable Beach, to the water, either to ride a camel, to swim, to surf, to fish, to have a meal, to wander the beach, to admire the sunset, just strolling and walking, watching the time immemorial practice of the sun setting over the Indian Ocean here. And of course, being someone who's lived predominantly on the eastern part of Australia, it's a new experience for me to see the sun setting over the Indian Ocean. I'm used to it rising over the Pacific. Of course, it's not all idealism here. The region has had a great fight for at least a decade, probably much longer than that, protecting the songlines of the traditional people of the region and protecting the songlines from exploitation through mining. And more recently, I think it was around about was it 2008 or thereabouts, there was I'm not sure if it was American. I think it was an American company who wanted to frack for gas in the region just north of Broome, between Broome and up to James Price Point. This, of course, is sacred in the tradition of the Aboriginal people, and it's an ancient songline, and there are places of significance for the Indigenous people. And so there's been at least a decade, maybe longer, campaign between the Aboriginal people, environmentalists, other people who protect the sea and the ocean, musicians, to protect this sacred area, the James Price Point. And the campaign was effective, I discovered, and one of the people who gave it voice was John Butler, who's I don't know if his heritage is Indigenous or Kimberley, but he certainly lives in Western Australia, and he's been very active in the campaign, which was successful. And I give you the link here if you're interested in listening to a song of his that he dedicates to the saving of the songline and the collaboration with the First Nations people. And I think it was now somewhere I don't know what year it was, can't quite remember. There's a thing called, let me see if I can pronounce it, the Goolarabaloo Heritage Trail. It's been set up by the local Indigenous Yarrawa people, and I'll just read what they have to say about it. They say that the Goolarabaloo law bosses, that is the elders of the West Kimberley, hold the responsibility for the continuity of the songline and its capacity to sustain life in its fullest. This includes keeping the coastal land clear of any development that would interfere with their law and culture or damage their song cycle, places and sites. And 31 years ago, Paddy Rowe, with the support of his Goolarabaloo community, established the Lurajara, that is the Sand Dunes, Heritage Trail. This is a section of ancient songline that runs north from Broome, and it was established in 1987. So these days one can undertake in July a 9-day, 82-kilometre cultural walking journey along the song cycle, and this involves leading visitors throughout this 80-kilometre stretch of saltwater coastal terrain, travelling as a group and sharing their heritage. The The song cycle that connects to specific sites, that is law grounds, in a continuous linear system up the coast of the Dampier Peninsula. It comprises a collection of songs that hold a living memory, specific to particular places, trees, animals and other landmarks. This is on land, in sea, air or water, and they lay for this land and its history, as known via these songs for place, has been sung for centuries at ceremony time. So the Gurrubaloo people are still actively engaged in looking after country, despite living within a Western world that would have them sell it off for the greatest economic resources for the nation. And they believe that connection with country and culture is the base of one's true sense of identity, spiritual and physical health and self-esteem. And strangers to the country, such as myself, need to be introduced by someone from that place, a place who knows its songs, its places to be wary of, someone who can facilitate your safe passing, so that the country will become familiar with your smell and subsequently treat you well. So I thought that was a wonderful explanation of this heritage trail. And of course this group of people are still active, because even though the previous battle was won in the courts, there's another one going on, and this is because there's a proposal that's been put in. It was a couple of years ago now, I think, or could have just been 2020, I'm a bit vague on that, to extract gas through the fracking process in the Fitzroy Basin. And this is inland from Broome. And of course this is not the only proposal in Western Australia. There's also one around the Carnarvon Basin, and there's some proposals around Perth, as you can see. It's an ongoing process to try and protect the country, and it's wonderful to see the musicians, the environmentalists and the First Nations people collaborating. Another one of the wonderful things that I did at the whilst I've been here in Broome was to go to an astronomy event. And those who know me would know that I'm an avid watcher of the sun and the moon and the stars, even though I have extremely limited understanding of astronomy. But I've known about Greg Quickie's astro tours for more than a decade, and having watched the sun set and the moon rise, I found myself last night at one of Greg's astro tours, where he explains that in wonderful layman's language, really, the movement of the heavens and the stars, and of course how it's really the stars are fixed and it's Earth that's moving. So it's not the sun setting, it's Earth moving in the direction away from the sky where the sun had set. And there was wonderful explanations, and I think there might have been about 20 telescopes, small all the way through to quite large, and we looked at the moon, and while we were looking there was while Greg was speaking, actually, there was a fireball came shooting down in the northern part of the sky. I'm pretty sure it was in the region of the Great Bear, Ursa Major. We looked at the solar system, we looked at many star clusters. Greg pointed out the Emu, which covers several constellations in our Milky Way. Excuse me, I think the highlight for me was to see Saturn, which is, we know, the last planet visible with the naked eye, and it had just risen in the heavens, and it was quite small but very distinct. I could see the rings of Saturn. Myself and about 150 people thoroughly enjoyed our evening. This image here is of the moon near Saturn. Anyway, that's all that I've got to say about my visit to Broome, except that I'm attending a concert this evening given by John Butler in protest against the fracking that's proposed in the Kimberleys, and I certainly looked forward to that. This has been Chandra Easton from StarAstrologyHealing.com. Bye for now.